Blaze tribe and family. I am so excited to be with you today and to share a little bit about community building. My name is Jasmine Price. If I haven't had the chance to meet you, I am the founder of Magnolia Penn Consulting, and I absolutely love talking about community. When I think about the seasons of life that I have been in and that I'm currently in, I would not have gotten through, would not have found success if it was not for a thriving community. And so thank you for joining Pushing P, a community formula. So I work on a college campus with college students. And so if you're unfamiliar with the term push and pee, it's okay because my students gave me a little insight about what push and pee actually means. So it is a song by Gunna, but ultimately what pushing P means is really attributing positive characteristics like loyalty and ambition to people. And so I thought it was a perfect title when I think about talking about community. So before we dive in, I wish that I could be with you in person, and I'm crossing my fingers for the day that we can have this summit in person. And I thrive off of audience energy. And so since I cannot hear you snap and say yes and see you shake your head, what I need you to do is to engage through all of the various features that are available via AirMeet. So in the chat, using the reactions, and we're gonna practice just to make sure y'all are with me and that y'all are gonna give me the energy that I am gonna give you and that y'all are gonna return it back to me. So if you're ready to get the show on the road, I just need you to type in the chat, pushing P. I just need a few people to type pushing P in the chat before we get started. Okay, I'm seeing a couple of folks that are ready, and so we're gonna dive right in. So earlier this year, I was at an event with a colleague, and he said this quote that like rocked my world and has been stuck in my head ever since. And when I thought about what I wanted to share with the Blaze tribe and all of you, I immediately came back to his quote. And Dr. Malone, my brother, my friend, said, "You are the product of the people that you place in your presence. You are the product of the people you place in your presence." I'm going to say it one more time for good measure. You are the product of the people that you place in your presence. And so when I think about a formula for community, this is exactly what this formula is built on. And so we're going to spend some time with each one of these elements, helping us to think through how we engage in community and how we create community as well. But before I get started, I just want to take a quick pulse to make sure I'm in the right room. So how many folks in here have ever been in relationship or friendship or a community with Black women and it has gone horribly wrong? Like you were burned, bridges were burned, like you don't mess with them people no more. And if you see them in the streets, they might get the hands. And if that's you, I just need you to drop a 1 in the chat. Okay, so I see a few people who might be ready to run some hands with some folks, and that's cool because the girlies do like to tussle. Now, I want to talk to people who maybe are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Drop a 2 in the chat if you have a friendship with one person or a group of people that is older than 10 years. So you've been friends with these people 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 18 years. And if that's you, drop a 2 in the chat. So I recognize that 2 things can be true at once. So you could be on both ends of those spectrums, or you could live somewhere in between. And I wanted to hold space for both of those realities and all of the realities in between, because community is complex and it is messy, because as humans, we are complex and messy people. And so I hope that wherever you are on the spectrum, that like, you're like, I don't even really want to be in community, or like, oh my gosh, I cannot do life without my ride or die, or you're somewhere in between, that you are able to take a nugget, a gem, or find some value in this presentation, really to help you show up in community better, and also to evaluate and assess the people that you are choosing to put in your community. So we're going to keep it moving. We're going to talk about the very first part of this formula, which is you. So when I think about community, I think about it in 2 ways in relation to the individual person. So the first way that I think about it is that each of us has a role to play in a community, and to recognize that we exist in multiple communities at the same time, but we all have a role to play. And so my question to you You can jot it down on a piece of notebook paper or what you got laying next to you, or if you're brave, you can type your response in the chat. My question is, what role do you typically play in your community and why? So what role do you typically play and why? So I'm the leader in my community because oftentimes folks are not going to step up to lead. I am the empath in my community because I am able to help other people get out their big feelings and make sense of them and give them language to be able to use to have a productive conversation. I am the comedic relief in my community because we all need to stop taking ourselves so seriously. Whatever it is, whatever your role is, think about what role you typically play and why you play that role. Excellent. I see some folks in the chat. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. So the second way that I think about how individuals show up in community is that there's often a goal for being in community, or at least there should be, that we should not be aimlessly in community just because someone told us that community was a good idea. So I'm going to encourage you in the chat to finish this sentence. I know that I found my tribe when. And I want you to think about it in a couple of different ways. I know that I've found my tribe when, and you think about, what does finding my tribe sound like? What do the people in my tribe say that affirms that I found them? I want you to think about, what does it feel like when you found your tribe? How do you feel? How does the world feel? And I want you to think about what it looks like. So who's in your tribe? What does your life look like? That's going to be different. So I'd love for a few people to finish that statement. I know that I found my tribe when, and you can drop your response in the chat. I appreciate y'all so much for blowing the chat up already. I feel your energy and I appreciate y'all. So when I think about our roles as individuals in community, I'm a firm believer that being in a relationship with someone else means that there is a reciprocal exchange of energy, ideas, time, and intentionality. It's reciprocal, which means that I am both a consumer of community, but I am also a cultivator and a creator of community. So as much as I receive, I also give, and I expect that it is a balance, a healthy balance of giving and receiving between all the folks who make up my community. Then I also think about our individual goals for community. So you can have a lot of different reasons why you choose to be in community and maybe what you need from your community. But a few things that I think all communities should have as a common goal is that your community should reflect your core values. It should affirm your presence. And the folks in your community really should champion your wildest dreams. And I really want to harp on this idea of like affirming your presence, but also championing your dreams, because as Black women, there are very few spaces where we can show up, we can exist, and our presence can be affirmed, and people rally behind like the vision that we seek to create. And so when you find that, like, I hope that all of us get a chance to experience what it's like to be in a community that thrives in those ways. Okay, so I told y'all this is a formula. So if y'all don't walk away with nothing else, by the end of this, you need to be able to say this quote, okay? You are the product of the people you place in your presence. So as we continue to move through the formula, I'm going to talk a little bit about what are some of the products that being in good community produce. So the first product that being in good community should produce or can produce is that good community should help you stay in purpose on purpose. So being in a good community with like really dope and dynamic people, they should be reminding you of the responsibility of your calling and your gifts. If you know anything about being in purpose, you know that purpose is expensive, that it is not cheap. And because it is expensive, the people around you need to, one, help you to protect it, but also need to help you operate in it and to find ways in which it feels good for you to operate in your calling and in your gifts, because they recognize like the world needs all of what you have to give, and they want to make sure that you are in a space where you can give what the world needs. Another product of good community is that good community helps you endure the process. I don't know about you, but my journey in entrepreneurship and life in general, as I have emerged as a young adult, has been difficult and challenging for a lot of different reasons. And I am thankful to have a community that has shown up for me in those times when it has been difficult, because they have allowed me to borrow their strength. They have allowed me to borrow their courage. They have loaned me prayers in the midst of me being in the trenches. And when I think about good community, I want to know that the people around me are going to be in the trenches with me, and they're going to not only help me get through, but they're not going to let me forget the lessons that I learned in that process as well, because we know that like it is a journey, and we're not like on a destination, but that doesn't always mean that the journey is easy, and we need people to go along their journey with us, both in the good and in the bad. Another product of good community is that good communities help you to work towards progress. And there's something about being around like dynamic, dope Black women that are like on their shit, because when Black women are on their shit, like what happens is that the world begins to change, because we hold so much impact. The solutions that we're creating through our businesses, the ways in which we are showing up in our communities, like has exponential impact at all levels in so many people's lives, whether we know them or we don't. And when you're in good community, there are so many people individually that are focused on creating impact, and that creates ripple effects. And it also creates just like momentum as a community to be able to create impact that lasts far beyond one particular season. And then lastly, good community should always activate your potential. The folks in your community should be able to speak life into you. But what I really think that the folks in your community should be able to do is they should be able to call out the untapped potential in you. There is something very special about having folks in your community who see something in you that you do not see in yourself, and who continue to call that thing out of you until what they see on the inside of you is an actual tangible element or characteristic that exists on the outside of you. And we all need people who see something in us that we don't see in ourselves and remind us that we have the potential and the capacity to be those people. So these are just some of the products of good community. If you're still with me, drop a P in the chat one time. Okay, y'all still pushing P with me, so I'm gonna keep it pushing. All right, we're back to the quote. By now, you should be reciting it with me out loud. You are a product of the people you place in your presence. So we've gone through who you, the individual, we've talked about some of the products of good community, and now we're gonna spend a chunk of time on the people, because it is people who make up our communities. And so I believe like this might be one of the most important elements of the formula altogether, because there is no community without the people that make up the community. So if you are like me, you maybe have heard of this concept of like having a personal board of directors. Maybe you're familiar with that language because of business, but essentially your board of directors, whether that's like in your personal life or within the aspect of like business, is a group of folks who have input, influence, and impact on the ways in which you move and make decisions. They help you to make logical decisions, to make wise decisions, to think about like where you're investing money, where you're investing time, where you're investing energy and resources. I love the concept of having a personal board of directors because they hold us accountable. But what I really think that every CEO and founder needs is a board of dreamers, very similar to a board of directors, in that these are a small group of folks who have permission to have input, impact, and influence in the ways in which you show up as an individual, but also the ways in which you show up as an entrepreneur. And so as I talk through some of the roles on a board of dreamers, I would love for you to think through who in your community fits this role, and if they would be someone who would serve you well to have permission to have input, impact, and influence in your business. So one of the first dreamers that you need on your board of dreamers is a visionary. I love visionaries because they live at this level of like 60,000 feet. They are big picture thinkers. They like to hell with the details. Like I can give you like a fully actualized vision, but I don't know if I got all the details that you need. And what I love about these folks is that you can give them an idea. You can even give them an idea that's not fully developed. And a visionary, what they will do is they have the capacity and the capability and the ability to think through and to see, like without a shadow of a doubt, the most actualized, realized, biggest, most evolved, effective version of an idea. And they are able to hold on to that vision for a long time. And so the benefit of having a visionary on your board of dreamers is that they are the people that help you to think bigger and better, to create solutions that are stronger, that are better, more effective, because they can see the end result. I'm not going to say that you have to necessarily count on a visionary to be the executor, because sometimes they have it and sometimes they don't. But what they will always have is the ability to like really, really help you dream big and dream wide. And they will hold on to that. And because that's where they live and breathe, they love, that's their bread and butter. The second person you need on your board of dreamers is a storyteller. Okay, so I just got back into reading. I love a good plot line. I love like the dynamicity of characters and the development over time. I am a moviegoer. I love a good like movie with a good plot, with all of the things, all of the stories that are interconnected when it comes to movies and books and TV shows that like we love. You need a storyteller on your board of dreamers, because what a storyteller really does is they serve as a historian for your experience. And so when you have a storyteller on your board of dreamers, they're the person that's able to tell you where you've been to where you are. They're able to tell you about all of the different storylines that come into play, but they're really the people who help you to see the process and the journey that you've been on. Because often when you're in the process, it is hard to remember like all of the details of the things that happen. Sometimes it's hard to even remember like, what lessons did I learn? What lesson am I currently learning? And the storyteller is there to remind you of those things, but they're also really great at being able to help you to think through like, what's the message, right? So if I had to tell this story to someone else, what would resonate with other people? What's the similarity that you share with a lot of other people who maybe have a similar experience? And so you need a storyteller on your team, because they're going to remind you like, we used to be in the trenches and baby, we made it and we're going places. And I need you to tell the world that like we made it and we're going places. The third person you need on your board of dreamers is a connector. And I love connectors because they're the plug, the literal plug. So connectors, what they're really good at doing is being able to connect concepts and ideas, but also people and resources. And connectors are not just like, I know the resource and like, maybe I'll connect you. If they say they're going to connect you, they take much pride and much joy in actually connecting you. Sometimes I feel like connectors are the people who like went to school to get all of the knowledge that everyone else missed. And somehow they always have a whole lot more information about the thing that I need information on than I do. And they're always just willing to share, to connect, to say, hey, the resource is here. Would love to introduce you to this person. Oh, have you thought about partnering with X, Y, and Z? And so you need a connector because it helps. They're helpful in helping you, one, to like bridge the gap, but also they're excellent community builders. Then the last person that you need on your board of dreamers might be my favorite person on the board of dreamers. I'm not even going to lie, is a disruptor. And let me talk about these disruptors. The disruptors are the people who shake shit up. They're also the people who are with the shit at all times. And you need a disruptor on your board of dreamers because they are not satisfied with the status quo. And because they're not satisfied with the status quo, they do not let you get comfortable, because comfortability and status quo go hand in hand. So they're the people that are always going to push you outside of your comfort zone, asking you to do this scary thing. They are also the people who ask some of the best and most critical questions. And one of their favorite questions to ask is why? Why do we do it this way? Why have you not thought of this? Why hasn't this changed? They're incredible at asking questions that cause you to pause and reflect about how you're moving and why you're doing it that way. My best example of a disruptor that we all know and love is Casey Richardson. She is a disruptor. And she like owns the fact that she's a disruptor. But when you think about what Blaze is, what this summit is, what she has been able to create, right, as a disruptor, then you understand why disruptors are necessary to have on a board of dreamers. And so I hope as I've talked through who the board of dreamers consists of, the types of roles that people play, that you've been able to identify some folks that are already in your community who potentially could serve on your board of dreamers. I also hope that you have taken a moment to think about what role you play, because you should fall into one of these 4 categories as well. And if you're like, I'm missing a few folks, then maybe you should be thinking about, as you build community, are there people that I can bring into this community that I feel confident and comfortable with as I get to know them, and giving them permission to have input, impact, and influence in the way that I move as a woman and as a founder and CEO. Okay, y'all still with me? Y'all know what to do. Drop a P in the chat and let me know you still hanging on with me. Okay, I see a few P's in the chat, so you know I'm gonna keep it pushing. So at this point, you're likely saying one of 2 things. You're either like, okay, cool, I got my board of dreamers, like we're good to go. I got my people, I know where I fit in with that. Like my tribe has always been really solid, so we Gucci. But I kind of like want to have some other folks just as a part of my community, right? I want to be able to connect and engage with other people. And I'm looking forward to doing that. Or you're saying, Jasmine, like this whole community thing is new to me. I'm not even really sure where to start, but I know that I want some good people, but I just don't know where to start. And if you're in either of those 2 spaces where you're looking to build an even better community, or you are looking to start building community, I'm going to share a few places where you can find good people that likely would align with the goal of community. So y'all stay with me. I got a few spaces where you might be able to find some of these people. So the first place that you can find good folks to be a part of your tribe are at events. So that's in-person events or virtual events. And events are a really great place to find people to be in your tribe, because when you attend an event, 2 things are true. Event attendees always share a common identity and a common goal or purpose for why they are attending said event. So take the summit. Everyone attending the summit is a woman. 99% of us are Black women. Common identity. We're also in business or looking to get into business, so we identify as founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, right? So shared identities. Our common goal is that we are invested in developing both personally and like growing and learning for our own personal development, but we're also invested in ensuring that we are committed to learning and growing so that our businesses can grow and develop. Shared goal. And at events, you have increased access to people who share common identities and common goals. And so when you think back to earlier, I said the goal of community, one of the goals of community is that they're aligned with your core values. And so shared identity and common goal means that there is more likelihood that these folks are going to be aligned to your core values. And so events, both virtual and in person, are great ways to find your people. I also think about communities are another great way to find your people. And when I say communities, I'm thinking about these business experiences that you invest in. So a mastermind, a business intensive, a course, or a paid community experience where community sort of is built into the experience that you are purchasing. And communities are helpful and beneficial in helping you to find your people because they're for extended periods of time. So either you know exactly when it ends, it's a 6-week business intensive, it's a 9-month mastermind, or it's a membership that you pay for so then you can opt in and out when you get to decide when you end it. But the same people begin to show up in the space over and over again. You get to know them, you get to trust them, you begin to like them. And then when you're ready to engage, there's like very little pressure because you've spent so much time with them already and you know a little bit about them, about what they're all about. So it helps you to get in and to engage, but you get to observe folks over time. Third is networks. And so I say networks like your personal networks. So the virtual introductions that your friends do, the shared mutual connections that you've made because so-and-so knew so-and-so who also knew that girl, and all of y'all are now connected. And I love finding my people through my personal network because there is an element of shared trust. So there's at least one person who can vouch for good people on both sides. And I don't know about you, but my friends don't run with no raggedy folks. So if I have a friend that's going to vouch for you, I know at baseline, you've got to be like quality and you're going to be dope because that's just who my circle runs with, right? It's also helpful when there is sort of a mutual connection because it sort of sometimes expedites some of the like weird awkwardness of like building relationships as an adult, because we're not going to slide past the fact that it is sometimes awkward and odd to build a relationship with new friends as an adult. And then lastly, social media. And I think sometimes people be sleep on like social media friends because they're not the same as in real life friends. But what I love about social media is that you have unlimited reach. Like literally people all across the globe are clicks away. And it can be really easy to begin to build relationships with people on social media. It is as simple as commenting on posts and commenting on or like engaging in the stories. And maybe it starts with a DM conversation, but there's so many like small ways that you can build up into really having someone that's really dynamic, really join your community and be someone that you engage with often. So these are just a few of the places. So if you're looking to broaden your community, to grow your community, or to start a community, start with some of these places. This summit is a great place to find really dope women to be a part of your community. So I hope that you're engaging with these folks, right? Because we have a shared identity and a shared goal. All right, we're back to the formula. You are the product of the people you place in your presence. So now we're going to talk a little bit about place. And when I think about place in relation to this formula and the idea and the concept of community, what I'm really talking about is the season of life that you're in. The place that you're in is the season of life that you're in. And when I think about seasons, is that we evolve and we change, right? We grow because we are dynamic folks and we are committed to our own growth and development. And so that means that like we are constantly evolving, which means that like our community could and probably should also be evolving. And sometimes that gets a little tricky. And so I'm going to share a few thoughts on questions that maybe help you to reflect on the season that you're in and what you need from your community in this season and in future seasons. So the first part of understanding this evolution of community within different seasons is just a level of awareness. I'm a firm believer that like self-awareness is a tool that a lot of people sleep on, but it is an incredible tool when you are self-aware. So I want you to think about, who am I today? Like who am I today? What kind of woman am I today? And not just like, what am I doing? What is my business doing? But like, who am I at my core? How do I show up? What do I value? Right? What does my presence and my energy say about me? Who am I today? I'm gonna give you a few minutes, not a few minutes, a few moments. If you are brave, you can respond to this question in the chat. If not, jot it down anyway and take some time over the next few days to reflect on, who am I today? Who am I today? So the next part of understanding the evolution of seasons is really just like recognizing that there is an evolution that is going to take place for yourself individually. And the question you ask when you recognize and you understand evolution is, who am I becoming? Who am I becoming and who do I want to be? So who do I want to be 3 months from now? Who do I want to be a year from now? Who do I want to become 3 years from now? And again, not what am I doing? Who am I becoming? What characteristics do I have? What are people saying about me and the way that I move? It might include like, what am I doing in my business? But it doesn't have to, and it shouldn't start with that. So the first question, who am I today, is going to give you a very good gauge on like today, in this season, who I am. The second question is around the seasons that you foresee you walking into at some point later down the road at a said later date. And they're all about you. The next two questions are specific to your community. So when you know who you are, you also can show up better in community. So as you think through like this season of evolution and what evolution means for your community, I want you to reflect. Reflection is also a tool that a lot of people see. And I really want you to ask yourself, how does your tribe, how does your community reflect the woman that you're becoming? Because I think oftentimes we have community that fits who we are today, and it doesn't fit who we're becoming. And then as we evolve and become more self-aware, more engaged, more profitable or prominent as a business owner, whatever it is, as we evolve and become, we often are looking shocked and we're blindsided when our community then begins to shift and we have like an immense amount of hurt and just like confusion around it because we did not take the time to think through who am I becoming, and does my tribe reflect that? And so if your tribe doesn't reflect who you're becoming, I'm not telling you to cut anybody off. I'm not telling you to cut anybody off today. But what it helps you to do is to say, if I'm becoming someone different than what my tribe reflects, there is a potential that these relationships will begin to look different. And you can prepare yourself for the emotional and mental tax that will require when that time comes. Right? I'm not telling you to cut nobody off. Just know that like, as you evolve, if your circle doesn't reflect that, then your circle will evolve, and that is okay. Like we all have permission to evolve, and that is okay. And then the last element of this idea of like place and seasons and evolution is the concept of advocacy. So you know who you are today, you know where you're going, where you're headed, because you know who you want to become. You also know how your circle reflects the woman that you want to become. So the future you, how it can serve both the present you and the future you. And then the last thing is, if we know all these things, then you know what you need from your community as you evolve. So oftentimes Black women, I've fallen into prey to this as well. We show up as superwomen. I'm a recovering superwoman. I've put my cape down. Sometimes I pick it up every now and then, but I am learning to say, I am aware of your needs, but I also need to tell you what I need to. And I think Black women, we've got to get comfortable with asking the people who love us, who we have chosen to be in community with, we have got to start getting comfortable asking them the things that we need, particularly as we are growing and evolving. Because what I've learned is that people will go to the depths to give you what you need if you simply ask them. And because I don't know any mind readers, y'all might know some, but I don't know any mind readers, then I know that if I need something, I have to open my mouth because no one is reading my mind. And so I want to give you permission. If you don't feel like you have it, I want to empower you today. Like, ask for what you need from your community. Because the community needs something from you, but you also need something from the community. And it is okay to ask for what you need to get to where you want to be. Okay, if y'all still with me, you already know what I'm gonna ask you to do. Put a P in the chat if you still with me, you still rocking with me. All right, I see some P's in the chat, so you already know I'm gonna keep it pushing. Okay, we're at the last part of the formula. And if you haven't said this quote out loud, I'm gonna need you to say it out loud with me right now. You are the product of the people you place in your presence. And your presence. And so we're gonna dive in. We're gonna talk a little bit about presence. So first I want to say your presence matters. Your presence in this world matters, but particularly when I think about the communities that you exist in and the communities that you cultivate, your presence absolutely matters. And because it matters, I believe that your presence should always add value to your community. And adding value will look different for every community and for every person. And so I just want you to think, you can jot this question down, you can drop your response in the chat, or you can just spend some time reflecting on it later. What does adding value look like to you in practice? What's the tangible act of adding value? What does it look like for me? Because I want you to know what it looks like to add value in my community. And I can't tell you what it looks like specifically for the communities that you exist in. I can only tell you that you should always be adding value to your communities. So I'm going to spend some time talking about positive, powerful presence. I believe that there are a few prototypes for having a positive, powerful presence. And I say positive because you can also have a negative, powerful presence. But if you're adding value, you default mostly to having a positive, powerful presence. So as I talk through these 5 types of presence, if one of them resonates with you, let me know in the chat. So the first type of positive, powerful presence is a calming presence. So these are the people that can walk into a chaotic room, a chaotic environment, a chaotic situation. And because they walk in the room, the chaos starts to recede. They're the people who can keep a cool head under all kinds of pressure. But when you're around them, you also just feel calm. They're the people that I love to talk to when I am stressed or I'm in a high pressure situation, because they're the people who are even kill and they're going to bring my temperature down. So calming presence has the ability to shift the ways in which chaotic situations, experiences, or environments feel. A controlled presence, not a controlling, a controlled presence. I also like to call this the bad bitch presence, because people with controlled presence, they just always, to me, are the folks who are just like they got it together, and they are thoughtful in their responses. They're the people who are proactive in the way that they're responding. And when they have to be reactionary, they are very thoughtful about the way that they engage in that. They're the people who often just you can just see them and be like, yeah, it just looks like you got your shit together. Controlled, right? So they're not reactionary, they are thoughtful and they are proactive, which tells them to have just a control around their emotions, around their emotional intelligence, and ways in which they engage in a space. Controlled presence. I think about an empowering presence. And an empowering presence, these are the folks who gonna hype you up. They're the people who are professional hype women. They're gonna gas you up. They're gonna tell you your hair looks nice. They're gonna compliment you on your lip color. They are the people who really have the language of affirmation. They have the language of belonging and the language of inclusion. And so when you are around them, you feel like you're a part of something. They draw you in to be a part of a community. And there's no question when you're around them that you are supposed to be in that space. Then I think about a light presence, and I use a light, sort of talk about it in 2 ways. So I think about folks who have a light presence are the folks who you can just look at them and it's joy just radiates from their being. It's just they've got this inner light that just radiates out. They're the people that when you're around them, they feel warm. I don't know if you've ever been around someone who makes you feel warm, but they make you feel warm, right? And their light is what you see. That's what radiates out of them. But the duality of having a light presence is that I've often found folks with a light presence also make life light. They're the people who are always laughing, who are cracking jokes, who their energy is just contagious, and it is childlike and it is playful, and it helps you to not take the world so seriously. They're the people who are just loads of fun to be around because they don't take themselves too seriously and they don't take anything else too seriously. And they're light. So the weight of the world feels like it just sort of falls off of you when you're around people that are light. You feel lighter because of them. The last presence is a present presence. These are the folks who when you're talking to them, it feels like it's just the 2 of y'all in a room by yourselves talking. They're the people who are just so intentional about when they're somewhere and they're in the moment, and you can tell that they're in the moment. The way they move, the way that they speak, the way that they engage with other people lets you know that they're mentally and physically, they are so in the moment. And there's something so powerful about all of these presences, right? They have the potential to shift the temperature of any environment, and they can add value in any space. And so I hope that you were able to identify one or more of these presences as a way that you actually show up, that you authentically show up in the spaces and the communities that you occupy. And then my last thing I'm gonna say about presence is that it is to be protected. Like, presence and your energy is to be protected. It is an expensive resource. And once you give it out, you don't get it back. It's like time. Once you give it, you don't get it back. And so I would urge you all to be aware of how you feel, what you think, the language that you use, and how your body is responding when you are in the presence of certain people. Because when you're in the presence of someone with a positive, powerful presence, you feel different. And when you're in the presence of someone with a negative, powerful presence, you also feel different. And we have to be aware of when we can shift where and who we give our energy to. That being said, if you got your phone, you should probably screenshot this. These are just some green flags for people in your life, right? Some positive green flags for building community. All of these, proceed with all of these people because they likely will have a powerful, positive presence in your life and in your community. So I'm gonna leave you with just 3 final thoughts on how you can be push and P in your community. The first is practice. When I think about practice, what I recognize is that intentionality is against the nature of who we are. We are by nature selfish people, and that's okay. That's how we're wired. It takes a lot to get out of that. There's a practice of intentionality that we should all be looking to develop, hone, and train. We think about intentionality as a muscle. It is something that can be developed and trained. And so I ask you, what does intentionality mean for you and community? How do you give it? And what does it look like when people are giving it to you? Make sure that you have a pulse on your community. Our communities are living, breathing organisms. And because they're living, breathing organisms, that means they are growing, they're evolving and changing. People are leaving, coming in and coming out for various reasons. And that we should never be afraid to let someone drift away from our community that no longer needs to be there, and to bring someone new in. So I want you to think about, who do you want influencing your life with their perspective? Who do you want influencing your life with their perspective? And then lastly, pursue people and pursue the challenge of what it looks like to nurture relationships with people. As I was talking today, hopefully you thought about someone who does community really well for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your line sister, maybe it's your auntie, maybe it's your business bestie who does it really well. Whoever it is, think about someone that you know who does community really well, and identify what about their actions is important to you. And what's something that you can take from them and make it your own, make it authentically you, to help you show up in community better? How can you implement it to make it your own so that you show up in your community better? I'm gonna leave you with this, and I hope that you stand on your feet and you say this with passion and with pride. You are the product of the people you place in your presence. Thank you.
Woo! Yes.
Hey.
So good, sis. Hey. Happy Freedom Day. Happy Independence Day.
Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth. All the things, sis. How you feeling?
Yeah, it's always so wild to watch myself on screen. It's always like a very surreal experience, watching myself like train and educate. Mostly because I don't think there are many spaces where I get to look back on like what I've done. I'm usually just like, all right, training done, and then like I'm out. And so it's always really surreal to like watch myself, but also watch people respond to like what I'm saying in real time. So I appreciate y'all for engaging in the chat. The chat was blowing up, so I really appreciate y'all.
Did it feel good to see all that affirmation?
It did, always.
Yeah, you deserve. You deserve. Y'all, Jazz is super dope. She's actually spinning the block for the second time this summer. She is one of only two who is spinning the block. So like Akia, who literally started it off with the first session, and Jazz, who has done the last session of the summit. I couldn't have imagined anything better. From the vets, y'all definitely killed. All right, so we have Jazz right now before the close of the summit. The summit is ending. Okay, you're not going in the metaverse tonight to talk to her. You're not going to the fluid space. No one-on-one, speed networking. So put your questions in the Q&A or raise your hand, right? So that you can crystallize these gems that Janice has given. First up, we have Aaliyah.
Hey, Jazz, thank you so much for coming to the platform, talking to us. That was great. I'm so full. Don't mind my sister; she playing her music in the background, pregnant lady. But I had in this season of life, I just relocated to Texas from Chicago. But friends that I've had, I'll say since maybe I was 13, 14, a lot of those, I'm gonna say like 80% of those relationships dismantled. When I say it got ugly like back talking behind people's back and like me hearing stuff from people that we all connected to, mutual friends, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm confused, I was heartbroken. And it's not to say that I'm 100% innocent, everybody play a role into fallouts. But I was heartbroken that I felt like me and my sisters don't want to fight for me. We've been solid for 12 years. We not big enough to let's talk it out, let's hash it out, let's discuss it, and hearing you say, the peas, I can't even get the sentence out, the enemy that stole my tongue. But hearing you say that though, it brought a sense of a peace of mind over me, because realizing what mindsets are you connected to, what perspectives are you connected to. I'm big on Michael Todd, Pastor Michael Todd. He always says whatever has your ear has your faith. And sometimes you have those people who are 50-50. They not always positive, but they not always negative either. They just riding the fence. I don't really know what I'm doing. And to be around these type of women that I've connected to during this summit, when I've been on my social media going crazy about this summit. This is my first year figuring it out. I found out like 2 days before it started. This has been a powerhouse emotionally, mentally, spiritually, business wise, even academically. They done inspired me to, go ahead and finish out your degree. Like just get it over with, get it done. So to see and be in this space, to connect, to hear you say all the things that you're saying, I thank you for that. It confirmed something in my spirit that has been disturbing my sleep, that it's okay to disconnect from those that you've outgrown. I'm not the same Aaliyah no more. I'm not the trench baby Aaliyah no more. We've grown in ways. And it's not to say that those people haven't grown. They have grown in their own ways. It's not to speak against any of them negatively in no kind of way. I'm just saying the rules of engagement has changed. I'm ready to get in the winning circle. I'm ready to network where it's plenty. And I thank you so much for confirming that in me. Like I'm happy you here. Like I needed this. I had a good service in church today. Y'all been on fire today. Thank you so much, Casey. I love you. I can't wait to work with you. I'm just excited about this. This is a good time,
Yeah, I love you too. You're in the land of plenty. Go ahead, Jazz.
I love that. Okay, so first I want to apologize on behalf of the friend group that probably won't ever tell you that they're sorry, because like friendship heartbreak is a different kind of heartbreak, and it hurts like a breakup when you're dating, but it hurts. I think it hurts worse because there's just like a really true and authentic love that's pretty close to unconditional, like in solid female friend groups. And so I have been through that hurt, and I recognize like how challenging that is, particularly when you're already in a season of shifting. That like those two things happening at the same time is that can be really hard. And so I want to apologize on behalf of the people who probably don't even know the ways in which they've impacted you, and to tell you like you're part of Blaze. And I know Casey talks about this all the time, that like we're a tribe and we're a family, and I hope that you've seen this even in the chat, right? But like
I have.
Blaze is like a true tribe. And so you may have lost some folks that you really thought was gonna like go to distance with you, but know that like because of the summit, you have gained so many women who are rooting for your success, who want to be in the trenches with you, who are gonna support you and root for you. And when Casey says she got you, like that's a real and true statement that like she says from the bottom of her soul, and not just something that she says, but that she also backs up with action. And so no, like you have found your home, and
Okay, welcome home, sir.
you are in a place where like the people that you need to be around like are in this space. And so I just want to affirm that like you are a part of the tribe, and like the tribe is going to do what the tribe going to do, and it's just legit.
I love it here. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks, Aaliyah.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Jazz, you better make me cry now. I'm trying to hold it together. Jeez, how many times are we gonna cry today? All right, we're gonna keep it rolling. We're gonna keep it rolling. Thank you, sis.
Okay.
All right, the next one is coming from my girl Shanikia Means. What's up, mama? You're on mute, Shanikia. I hope you can come off mute. Okay.
Can you hear me? Hey, everybody.
Hey, girl.
Jazz, that was good. I'm at work today, so don't pay me no attention if I'm whispering just a little bit because I was listening to this, but I was like, you know what? This is confirmation again because yesterday I was just talking about, sometimes we outgrow people and we still want to hold on to them. Like, it's not a bad thing that they don't grow to their full potential. They grow to their potential and they stay. But then what happens is sometimes you become stagnant with them and you want to stay too. And you have to go because you start feeling bad because you're like, oh my God, why, they got this what I need, but they don't have everything. And they make you feel kind of crazy because you want to move. So when you're trying to tell them your vision or your dream, they make you feel bad about it. Like you like, well, maybe I shouldn't do it. So then that's a fear of theirs that's, put onto you. And it's just like your body starts feeding off of it. You like, yeah, you're right. So I'm gonna just stay right here because they my friend and they know better, or they my family member and they love me so they know better. But at the end of the day, they don't know what's good for you. And then that's why, like me dealing in mental health, that's why your mental health gets out of whack because you still trying to search for yourself, but you holding on to what they saying to you and you just stuck in this bubble feeling lost. So I just felt good when you was talking about this today because it was confirmation because I was talking to somebody earlier that was the 50% person that I was sitting here thinking, wow, they make me feel sad when I talk to when I talk to them. Like, why am I talking to you? Because parts of you are good. That's great, but I think I'm gonna have to move on from this. I can't stay stuck with this. And you confirmed that today. It was another confirmation because I've been feeling like, you know what? Don't feel bad when you gotta let people go, but you do. You can't just keep settling and feeling like that's what all you deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we can release other people from relationship and still wish them well, and still speak well of them. And it just means like this is not the right season for you. And it doesn't discount or discredit all of the previous seasons that we've had with them and the value that they may have added in a future season. And so glad that can add some confirmation to what sort of like what you already know, right? And what
Yeah.
you've already been processing through. So I love that. Thank you so much, Shanikia.
Yeah, you can just call me Shy. That's what Casey calls me.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, thanks so much, Shai.
So beautiful. So beautiful. I had to move out the way because I knew Jazz was about to be preaching for a second. Very good question, Sean. Very good question. All right. I'm gonna pop a question on the stage real quick, Jazz. And this one is from our girl Nina. She says, Jazz, can you share tips on how to manage/nurture these relationships long term if they deem necessary?
I sure can. Hey, Nina girl. So I think at the very end of that session, I talked about the idea of practicing intention. And I honestly think like intentionality does wonders for relationships. I'm learning that in my own relationships. And so that's a lesson that I've learned, right? And so I think that one, recognizing if you're in a relationship with someone else, recognizing like what season you are in and what season they are in, because oftentimes like the seasons that we are in don't always align, right? So I think about, I have good friends, all of my good friends are in long-term relationships or they're married with kids, and that is not my story. And so like our seasons look different, and because our seasons look different, like the ways that we engage with each other look different. Like the things that they're working through and what I'm working through are different, and that doesn't mean that one is better or worse. It just means that my expectation of what this looks like in this season may look different than it did when like we were 18 and all of us were in undergrad and we were all in the same season. So I think that's key, being aware of like what seasons folks are in and how they may be different, and just like how to better navigate that. I think too, just being honest about like what you need, and what, not even what your expectation is, but like what you desire, right? So I hope that we can be business besties, or I'm just looking for a big sister, I need a mentor, and like just name that, right? Because I think it helps to, one, it helps you to articulate a little bit of the expectation, and helps the other person either choose like, I want to do that or I don't want to do that. I think a lot of our relationship hurt comes from, we have expectations of other people that we never voice to them, that they're unaware of, then they move outside of the expectation, then we're upset, but they didn't know that they were your business bestie because you never said that. You never asked them to do that. So now when they done missed 2 weeks worth of meetings with you because life, like they don't know that they're your business bestie unless you tell them that. And so I think like, name what you want the relationship to be, or how you have valued it in your life, because I think that's important for other people to also attach a value to it. And then I always say, I say this about like most things in life, just give people grace. Like life is happening at warp speed for everyone. And like, there are days when, I'm on it and I'm like, I'm a good friend, I'm checking in with people, like I'm the one that's being proactive. And there are other times when it's like life is happening and I can't communicate in the same way. Doesn't mean I love you less. It just means like I need a little bit of grace in some seasons. And so I think giving folks grace allows you to sometimes lower the expectation of like how you think people should be behaving in experience. But I'm just a firm believer in like asking for what you need and ask for what you want, right? And speaking the value of a relationship to the person, right? So like Casey is my mentor. I also look at her as my big sister. And I tell Casey often how much I value our relationship, right? Like how much our relationship has done for me personally and in my business and professionally, right? And so whatever happens with me and Casey, right? We locked in for life. But if that were to be untrue, like Casey can walk away, or I can walk away from this experience knowing like there was a lot of value in this season. And so whatever happens, like I know that this season was valuable, and I can live like okay with whatever happens in a relationship when I know like the people in this relationship knew the value of it while they were in it. And so if you choose to be outside of it, that's cool, because we both know like this was some good shit while it was good. Okay.
That's so good, Jess. That's so good. All right, Tiffany Brown, I'm bringing you up, Mamacita.
Jasmine actually kind of already answered my question, but I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed your session, and I did love the board of dreamers. It really sparked my creative juices back up. So I was kind of like going to like just let go of the whole being an entrepreneur thing after I had back surgery, and I was just having a hard time recovering, and things weren't going well. But between this session and the whole entire summit really just sparked my creative juices to get back into what I am meant to be doing. So I just want to thank you for that.
Tiffany, absolutely love that. And glad that you're here. I, in December, had a very similar experience as a speaker. I was like, I'm about to quit. Like, the year is going to come to an end and I'm going to be done. And I found Blaze, and life has looked very different since then. And so know that, like, again, the tribe is here to support and asking for what you need. And like, folks are going to pull up and do what they can do to make sure that like you have what you need to thrive.
Yeah, and thank you, Casey. Also, I feel like this is really a truly meant to be moment for me. So,
yep, I feel that way as well, and I thank God for colliding our paths, Tiffany. I'm so grateful to be in connection with you.
thank you.
All right, y'all. Well, that is officially the end of all sessions tied to the summit. Jazz, you know I love you so much. So thank you for holding it down as always.
Love you too. Thank you so much.
Of course, always. All right, ladies. So we have the very, very final segment. The very, very final segment. I will be delivering the keynote speech to close out the summit. I will officially announce the top 15 winners, reiterating the prizes that they walk away with. And that's it. Now, Nine ain't gonna get me if I don't do this. So I'm gonna I am going to definitely give the opportunity this time for anybody who wants to say anything, okay? Because last time I shut it down. I really did. But yeah, we'll do that as well. So I'll see y'all on the other side. Love and light.